So this is what scoring looks like for many composers in the modern day and age, myself included. You wake up and you make some coffee and you stare at that screen for about 10 hours and go to bed and you wake up and you do it all again. It's really, really creative. You're kind of limited only by your own imagination, but it does require a lot of attention to detail, as you can see here. This is what we call the edit window. So all these little boxes here are little pieces of music, little parts that some instrument is playing. And I'm looking at this scene you can see there and getting some ideas about tempo and some thematic, passages and things I can bring back later in the score. And then this is the mix window where all of those tracks on the left are all, maybe it's a cello or a flute or something. It's all getting funneled down to the right to these stems, which are groups of similar sounding instruments that we can send off to our mixer and, put into the score, put into the movie, put into the TV show. So this is it. This is what it all looks like. This little desk right here is an orchestra, or it's a band, or it's whatever you need it to be. It's pretty crazy what you can do just sitting at a desk all by yourself. And then once it's all done, we'll all get together at a fancy studio. This is me at Universal Studios in Studio City with our team putting together the sound for a show. This is called the mix stage, or some people call it the dub stage. We're just taking all the dialogue and the sound effects and the music and mixing it all together. And then once it's all done, you get to sit on your couch and have a whiskey and watch your music on television. And it feels really good to know that you're part of something that's, reaching a lot of people. It's very cool. Now, I came into this work in sort of a unique way. Well, many people go to school just for scoring. I just grew up sort of pawing at my parents' piano at their house. And then I sort of picked up on all these musical languages that were happening in pop music and on television. I was pretty lucky that from a really young age, I was just able to kind of mimic what I was hearing and just make it happen. That's me. I never learned how to play that one, I have to be honest. But I was able to get a lot done just without a lot of training. I just had a knack for it. I played in bands ever since I was a kid, and that led to me moving out to Los Angeles when I was about 19. And I actually started a nonprofit theater company, which is where the first time I had any experience actually scoring anything. We did some really weird avant-garde stuff. This is a piece I directed that did end up on the cover of American Theater magazine, but it was my first time putting music and sounds underneath something that was happening on stage and experiencing what it was like to see how it affected the audience. And then I just spent my 20s kind of touring around the world. Got to make a lot of music with a lot of really cool people. I went to the UK, I went to Europe, I went to Australia, I went to Japan. That's Japan, actually. And I, of course, went all over the USA. This basically was, for all intents and purposes, my schooling in music. I mean, we were just making music every day and working with a lot of really talented people and just being steeped in it. It was also the first experience that I had with music that I was making being on television, which plays into what I'm doing now. I mean, at the time we were just making music just because we wanted to make music, but once those pieces started finding their way onto television, it was really interesting to see how well they worked. That's the difference between like a placement and a score. So if you're scoring something, it's written exactly for that piece. And if it's a placement, it was written beforehand. So if you're making a record, this is where I would go. This is my studio in Los Angeles. And as you can tell, it looks a lot different than that first workstation that I showed you to begin with. You can take a lot more time here. You're actually using the real thing instead of the digital approximation of the real thing. I mean, scoring for TV, you have to think about the fact that the show might be 40 minutes long, and you would have to write maybe 20 minutes of music. And you have to do that in 5 or 6 days. So you have to be really streamlined. You don't have the luxury of time that a place like this will afford you. Think of how long it would take for me to set up all the mics on that piano, get them in exactly the right place, pick what mic I'm going to use, what pre I'm going to use, and then actually record it, as opposed to when I'm at the digital workstation, I can just pull up a plugin and there it is, it sounds pretty good. Now the difference to me is that these are real things, and taking time makes the music sound different. I'm not going to say it sounds better, but what's exciting me these days is trying to combine these two worlds, these two ways of thinking. So this is a real modular synth. This is a real analog synthesizer from the 70s. I mean, they're inspiring in different ways, and it's going to make your music sound different. And that's what I've been trying to do in my more recent work. In fact, I guess an analogy that I want to try to make is I toured as a keyboard player for a while, and I really had never toured as a keyboard player before. And I was actually playing organ. So if you don't know what a Leslie is, I'm sure some people back here do. Yeah, Pete's nodding his head. It's basically a speaker, and it spins. Okay, you've heard it attached to organs, and if you heard it in the music, you understand what it was. You got a little switch, and you can control how fast or slow that speaker's going. So I found when I was learning that instrument that once it got all the way fast, it really wasn't as engaging as when it was speeding up. And once it got all the way slow, it didn't pull you in like it did while it was slowing down. So it was sort of in that middle ground, in the time in between, that it was actually exciting and you want to hear it. So that's what I'm trying to do now with my current work, is combine those two ways of thinking and try to make scores that are relevant. I mean, in the end of the day, it's still just going to look like this, but it's what's contained in that, and it's how you got there that's going to be really important and hopefully engaging. So if you want to know more, just follow me on Instagram @Sgro. I'll keep you informed. Thanks.